Hey there, welcome back to the Impact Driven Leader podcast. This is your host, Tyler Dickerhoff. So glad you're here listening today, joining in this special episode with my good friend, Roy Hall. Can't wait for you to hear this conversation. One, Roy and I got to know, let me give you some background, right? Roy and I got to know each other, I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago now. I was at an event with a network marketing company my wife and I partner with, Isogenics. Roy was a guest of a friend there. We happened to meet each other in a room. We started chatting a little bit. And shortly after that, we just built a friendship and have been friends now for, like I said, the better part of 4 years, going on maybe 5 years, something like that. And I always absolutely enjoy the time I get to spend with Roy, whether it's, going out to a dinner if I'm in Columbus, whether it's speaking at his leadership event, which he drops a nugget. Pay attention. If you live close to Columbus, Ohio, if you live in the state of Ohio, you need to make sure May 17th is on your calendar, blocked off for a special day. He'll share more about that. Make sure we share about that in the show notes. But we just jump into a conversation. I wanted him to be on this podcast because as part of the podcast is I want to share not only from authors, but other leaders, but leaders that are doing spectacular things in their world and community. Roy has done that. As people have told me in the past, what Roy and the Driven Foundation is doing in Columbus, Ohio is just exceptional. And I've been able to be on an outside as a supporter, as a cheerleader to see him do it. And I'm excited for the work that individuals like he is doing. And he shares some life lessons. He shares some lessons of his personal failure that we walk through and talk through. An instance with the Hall of Fame quarterback, Peyton Manning. So sit back. If you don't know much about football, you're still going to enjoy today's episode. You're going to enjoy the conversations that Roy and I have. And I am thankful for people like Roy. Roy, let me give you this perspective too. We're a couple minutes into it. I enjoy the time I spend with Roy because not only are we two kind of, kindred spirits in a way. He has tremendous amount of passion and zeal to serve. And as he talks about, give out assists. But he also comes from a much different background than I have. He grew up in a very tough situation. I'll link it to a podcast episode Roy and I did a couple years ago on a previous podcast, that his history looks nothing like mine. We both grew up in Northeast Ohio. He grew up in a more urban, situation. I grew up on a farm. And yet the two of us share a lot of perspectives and lessons learned. And I appreciate that perspective from him so much because it helps me appreciate a world I don't know. And I hope I can give that same perspective to him at times as he teases me and with great affection. But this is what you're going to learn today. Not only did we talk about assists, but we're going to jump into a conversation talking a little bit about professional quarterbacks. So get ready for that. You're going to just jump right into our conversation and like you're sitting at a table just listening to us, because that's what I hope for this episode today. But you're going to learn about the difference between polarizing and being galvanizing. And I believe our world is in need of galvanizers, not polarizers, because the reality is our galvanizing actions are polarizing. For a leader, sit back, get ready. I think you're going to learn a lot and appreciate you being here. Polarizing as a leader, even though it seems like that's the way to go. It's like, oh, I need to polarize, right? I need to like stand apart. Does nothing to move people forward. Mm-mm. So if you think about that from a standpoint of like, this idea of a leader, if I am, you mentioned Tom Brady, Tom comes into a locker room and decides to be polarizing. Is he going to get everyone to come together as a better team? No. Right. It's when he invites them in, and it's when he says, hey, Antonio, oh, you're coming here to the team. Your locker's right next to me. I'm going to put my arm around you, and we're going to work together. It's not like, dude, you either fit in or fit out, as we've heard before, right? When LeBron did that to Kevin Love, it caused this amount of tension that they had to then quickly figure out. And I think that's the difference in that idea of a leader. If they choose to be polarizing, then they're fighting to connect people, as opposed to when you choose to invite people, you're already connecting people.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I think the biggest thing is the actions can themselves be polarizing, right? And your actions as a leader is what attracts people to you, right? Like, but if you go into it trying to assert yourself as a leader, most leaders, like specifically on the NFL professional football side, or just in life in general, like you don't have to go in and say, I'm the top dog, I'm the leader. People are going to know, number one, they know who you are based on your title. Yep. Your title doesn't make you a leader, but your title has you in a leadership position. So now everybody's watching to see how you communicate with the who's who in the room, and then also the people that no one really knows. And so I'm watching how you interact with everyone, and that's what makes you polarizing through your action. Now, you do have some people that come in and try and assert themselves and try and change some things or disrespect some people or isolate some people. And those are the people that end up losing half their team during a transition versus the guy like a Tom Brady who comes in and says, I want to galvanize the team and not focus on polarizing, but I'm going to galvanize the team by bringing people together and saying this is the standard, but I'm going to set the standard by how I lead. I was listening to an interview about Matt Stafford.
Well, hold on to that interview. You just, to me, you conceptualize it perfectly. Whatever your actions are going to be polarizing.
Sure.
If you go with the intention to be polarizing, you're going to create probably more separation and dissension. If your choice is I'm going to be galvanizing, which I love you using that term. If I'm going to come in and galvanize this entire community, that's going to be polarizing in and of itself, but you have already aimed to connect everyone and let that action be polarizing.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Dude, you said some good stuff right there. So you were saying about the interview with Matt Stafford.
The same thing happened with Matt Stafford. They were saying, one of his offensive linemen, they were asking, when was that moment where you knew he was going to be the leader this year of the Rams? And they said it was the third or fourth practice in preseason. And they said, someone missed a call or missed a play or the play didn't come in the right way or they didn't do whatever they were supposed to do. And when they got in the film room, Sean McVay was talking to the entire team and kind of calling out other people, and Matthew Stafford raised his hand and said, no, like that's on me. It's my responsibility as a quarterback to make sure the call gets in right, everybody's in position. Coach, that's on me. Well, that's usually what happens early on in the season, but this offensive lineman was saying Matt Stafford did that the entire season. Anytime anything ever went wrong, he always was the first to take accountability and responsibility for it and to take the pressure off of whoever was the problem and say, I want all the pressure on me. It's one thing to do it in preseason. It's another thing to do it throughout the entire season because that's who he is. Now, that action of taking responsibility, even when it's not your fault, it's a powerful thing, man. It eliminates the whole blame piece. It eliminates the complaining piece. It's I am responsible for making sure my team knows what they need to know and has what they need to have to be the leaders that I want them to be. And that was the part that was polarizing for the team, but it also galvanized the team because of his actions. And that's where you want to be.
So I want to take from that, you spent a lot of time in locker rooms with amazing coaches, amazing Hall of Fame players.
Top notch.
You, by your own admission, you grew a lot through the process as a person, and I know you've done that. What you just talked about there with Matthew Stafford, both from what you've seen and what you've experienced yourself, how much courage does that take?
You know what? I don't know how much of it's courage as much as it is mental toughness, because you have to have a certain level of layers of calloused, I guess, skin. We call it thick skin, having thick skin.
Resilience.
And you have to have the resilience. So in order to take responsibility for things that may not be your fault takes an uncommon level of toughness and will, but it also that's a leader in itself. The only other person, or not the only other person, the person that set the tone for taking responsibility for things that they didn't do, taking full responsibility, even if it cost them their life, was Jesus himself. That's the tone. I am strong enough. I'm powerful enough. I'm courageous enough. I want the most out of my people, so I'm willing to take responsibility for things that I didn't even do so that they can go to the next level. And so as a leader in a locker room or outside the locker room, Ty, it's even though it's not my fault, I'm taking responsibility because it empowers me to, number one, grow from your mistake, but I can also empower you to grow from your mistake. And so now I can become a better leader because I didn't give you what you needed, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do to make sure that you can go to where you were supposed to go. It's a certain level of sacrifice that comes with that. Peyton Manning had it, right? Tony Dungy had it. Jim Tressel had it. Troy Smith had it. I'm taking responsibility for the loss. All right. And I really don't want responsibility for the win. We get responsibility for the win, but I'm taking responsibility for the loss. And that's a totally that's the level where you have to get to as a leader if you want. And here's the thing. You're going to be judged by how the people that are following you go. Right. So Bill Belichick has a coaching tree every year. Nick Saban has a coaching tree every year. They get like wiped out because their coaches. Hey, man, we want to hire your coaches. And that's what you want. You want people leaving. You want people to leave. You want people to come poach your people. Why? Because that means I'm doing my job as a leader.
Man, first off, I missed you. I love that. I mean, I'm getting chills, and I'm getting chills because this is not something new. And,
I miss you too, but
like, it's just this, man, I wish you were sitting here in town and we're spending time. And, as we're 8 minutes into this, hit record and we'll edit this somehow.
Sure.
I'm so thankful for you in my life, for that experience, and being able to just hop on a, recording real quick and me reach out, say, hey dude, let's have a conversation, and know that it's going to be moving.
Yes,
it's going to be moving for me, but it's going to be moving for every single person that listens to it. I can't thank you enough for being that type of friend in my life, that I know if, as much as we know each other, as much as we've kind of spent time in this and that together,
sure.
I know if I were in a dark place and I said, Roy, I need you right now, that I know this and just know it, that you would do whatever to be there for me. I also know you mentioned just a minute ago 4 people, pretty upstanding people. One of them I've gotten to know. The other one I've studied a lot. The other 2 quarterbacks know a lot about. I think they were probably that example at different points in your life, as well as other people. And this is where I want to transition into that, saying all that stuff to appreciate you. In an instance where Peyton or Coach Dungy or Coach Tressel or Troy, they're sitting there in a film room, they're in an instance, and they took ownership for something that you knew, ooh, I let them down. One, how did that make you feel? And 2, what did you do next?
Okay. So that's good because letting people down is I got a good one for you on this one. First of all, thank you for the virtual hugs and kisses. XOXOXO, you like basically just proposed to me. Like if you were getting I feel you have a ring. Like I feel like you wanted to tell me you love me and you just proposed to me. And so, all right. I appreciate that, man. No, for real, man. Like that's real. That's connection, man. It's a spirit to spirit love and appreciation for each other. Because if I could articulate how I feel about you as well, man, like it's the exact same, where you don't have to be right next to someone else. You don't have to live in the same city. You don't have to talk to them every day, but just knowing from a spirit to spirit, connection that, we're kindred, man. Like we're here for each other. Like I genuinely care for you. I root for you. I will applaud your victories more than I would myself. That's one of those things that leaders have to have, and movement is key. And when you're moving in the same direction, as long as you look to your right or to your left and you can see your brother moving with you, it's a good situation, man. So, no, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your platform and your stage just to be able to share the energy that you're putting out with your emails and the podcast and on social media, and the consistency of which you're doing it. So it's likewise on the heart to heart connection, brothers. But to answer your question, my rookie year with the Indianapolis Colts, I had a collision on special teams, running down on kickoff with a guy named Cedric Killings. Yes, his name was Cedric Killings. He was a monster, 6'6", 280 pounds or whatever it may be for the Houston Texans. And back then they still had the wedges on kickoff return. This was actually the year after this season of the 2007-2008 season. They outlawed the wedge. Well, we had a huge collision. Cedric ended up breaking.
Could you explain for somebody listening what the wedge is? Just if someone's listening, they don't know what the wedge is. Could you explain that?
So if you're running down on kickoff, basically you see a lot of collisions when you kick the ball off in the game. So the Super Bowl, you see the flashing lights go off. Everybody's running down. The wedge used to be the 3 or 4 largest guys on the opposing team. Well, they would come together shoulder to shoulder, almost like a bulldozer, and the kickoff returner would catch the ball behind them and run behind the 4 biggest men in the field and try and run down the field and get as far as you can possibly get on a kickoff return. So if you got the smallest guy at 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", the speedy guy running behind some guys that are 6'6", 6'5", 6'4", and 300-plus pounds, it's going to be hard to break through what they call the wedge, which are those 4 guys shoulder to shoulder trying to plow the way up the field. As a wedge will hold open the door, like a little wedge, they open the door for them to run through. Well, my job as a kickoff at the time was to go down to blow up the wedge. So literally your job is not to make the tackle. Your job is just to run into the other guys on the team, which makes no sense. You got me running full speed at a 6'6", 280-pound guy, and I'm 6'3", 235, running the 4.3 as fast as I possibly can on national TV. So you can't slow down. You can't move out the way because they'll be able to see it on film and they'll see it on TV. And if you move out the way, you open up the door for that returner to get through. And so you just got to crash into a guy. That's your job. That's your responsibility. So I did it and did it well. Well, unfortunately, on this particular collision, it was week 3 down in Houston. Cedric ended up lowering his head a little bit, or however we collided, and he went down. He broke his neck, right? And I went down, shoulder contusion or separated shoulder, partially cracked rib or something. I couldn't breathe. And that was the end of that season that year for me. Now, I was playing wide receiver on the Indianapolis Colts, which means if Marvin Harrison ever went down, if Reggie Wayne went down, if Anthony Gonzalez had went down, I would have been right there in the mix to be the backup. And Cedric ended up recovering. Let's just get that out there. He never played again. His career was over that day. But he can walk, everything. He's good now. But I think he coaches now. But that year came to a close for me. Well, the following season, Ty, I went up to Peyton Manning in the locker room. I'm like, yo, P, man, like, I think I know him that way. I call him P, right? Yo, P, like, hey, I know I got hurt last year, right? And I know, so forth and so on. Just start talking, hey, man, I'm ready, though. Put in the time on film work. I've been watching. I'm healthy. I'm ready to go. I got the offense under my belt now. I understand it more. I use the offseason to get my mind right, get my mental part of the game up. And he was like, great, Roy, that's awesome. You can help us, 6'3", 240. You're doing some great things. Like you showed some flashes last year. We're looking forward to having you. Well, that same season, the 08-09 season, I get hurt again. Have a situation where I have some blood clots in my leg from a surgery, from a minor scope or whatever, and ended up missing 12 or 13 weeks. Came back for the playoffs, didn't really help at all, and that was it. So guess what? 2009 season rolls around, and I see Peyton in the locker room again, beginning of training camp. I'm like, yo, P, man, like I'm ready now, bro. Like I'm healthy. My knee is good. My shoulder is good. I'm solid. I'm ready to go. Gave him the same spiel again. And he turned, just kind of looked away, and then he turned back to me, and he was like, Roy, you said the exact same thing last year. And he just kind of walked away. Like, yo, like First of all, I don't care if you are Peyton Manning. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, bro. You're not about to be disrespecting me, just walking away from me saying some stuff. You feel me? Like, I know you Peyton Manning, you're the guy, but you just can't disrespect me like that. So I went through that emotion, right? You get the initial response, accountability, right? Like you don't want to be called to the carpet on, because he's true. Like, I did say that. And here's what I learned. Words can be tricky, but actions attract trust, right? Actions attract trust. So my words were, I'm here for you. I'm doing this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be available. You can depend on me. That's what my words communicated. And those words Peyton took in 2008, and he trusted those. And when he needed me to show up in 2008 in the playoffs, when Marvin Harrison had got hurt and some other guys had got hurt, I wasn't available. I didn't contribute to that mission that year. And in his mind, he was counting on that. Even if it was counting on it for 2%, right? If that 2% could have helped us beat the Chargers in the playoffs that year, he would have taken it. But since I wasn't available, my actions didn't align with my words. And so now he can't trust me. And so me giving him information and saying the same thing, like I'm ready to go, like I'm back again. He's like, okay. So he wasn't mad. He was disappointed that he couldn't depend on what I was saying. So he had to basically push away the words that I was trying to get. He couldn't receive them because my actions had basically dissolved his trust. And even though it wasn't my fault, watch, it wasn't my fault that I got hurt, but that doesn't matter because as a leader, you're counting on your people to be available. And so I found out quickly that your actions attract trust. So to answer your question, in that moment when people take responsibility for things and that was Peyton taking responsibility, like, all right, like it's on me for trusting you to do, and I can't do that. So now I'm going to pivot and go in a different direction. So the only thing that I could do is back off and say, all right, just make sure you stay healthy, stay on board. And guess what? My knee gave out on me again. Had another knee surgery and missed that whole season, right? And I never played for the Colts again. So I went on injured reserve, and that was that. Now, imagine if Peyton had took those words of me saying, I'm ready to go. That was the same year that Marvin, I think, was borderline retiring, and he would have been dependent on me again, and I would have let him down for the second time. So those are things that we have to be careful of as individuals and as leaders, is saying what you're going to do and professing how great you're going to be and what you're going to do in 2022 and how this quarter is going to, Q3 is going to be awesome, and we're going to do this, and then nothing happens. Everybody that heard you say that have now completely just lost trust or a level of trust for you in that room.
If you taking that story and looking back and putting yourself, again, as you mentioned that, in Peyton's shoes and thinking, okay, as Roy, and he, like you said, he called you out on that, but he acknowledged more of what happened instead of really calling you out, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's somebody listening as a leader and they're in that situation, or they're responsible to lead others, and life happens to them, right? Life happened to you. What opportunity is there to act differently? Because this is what I gather. And I know this isn't the case, but it's like, did I say all those words and then I go and I, have this blood clot, I have this knee issue, and I checked out because I was framing in on, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I got to get me right, as opposed to, all right, that's part of it. But what can I do to step in and actually be a contributor to the team, even though I can't contribute in the way that I thought I was going to? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's two different approaches. There's the initial, how do I react when somebody holds me accountable to my words and my actions? And a lot of people can't just step up and say it's my, again, we're talking about taking responsibility. If someone that is depending on you to do a job has said that, even if it's 90% of what they expected, hey, this is where I need you to grow or need you to be better. And the first thing out of your mouth is an excuse or a reason. Hey, look, man, why are you coming at me that way talking about I wasn't available? That's what I said last year. I got hurt. What do you want me to do? I got hurt, right? So, or it could be I got sick, or, somebody passed in my family. And so we will utilize these outside factors as a reason or excuse or a crutch as to why we're not performing. That may be true, but that doesn't change your job responsibility at wherever you are. Now,
Sure.
if you feel like those things are hindering your ability to contribute and do your job, it's your responsibility to go to the person that's leading you and say, hey, this is going on in my life. It's going to hinder my performance. And now it's an opportunity for the leader to say, thank you for coming to me. We got people that can help pick up the slack. But if you don't express the things that are going on and you keep them to yourself, that's why I'm big on making sure you're like people want to separate personal and professional. You can't separate the two, right? You just can't do it. So the people in your personal life should know how stressful your professional life is so that they can understand when you're moody, when you're going through it, when you're not being a great dad or a great mom, or you just don't want to talk when you get home, or like your kids can even hey, dad had a bad day. Just give me 30 minutes to decompress. On the flip side, if you trust the people that are at your place of employment or whatever it may be, like you should be able to go to them and say, hey, my wife is sick or my daughter has some challenges. It's going to prohibit me from doing the things that I want to do the way that I want to do them, are capable. Can I have a week off, or I'm going to take some time back? I think those conversations need to happen. But when you can't do your job to a high level the way that you want to, you can find a way to fit in. And sometimes that's just letting people know that you're going through something, right? Most people want to keep everything to themselves, and it ends up hurting the team. If I don't have information from you as a leader, how am I going to help you? So I'm trying to figure out why you're not producing the way that you were producing in your first 6 months with the company or first 3 years with the company. And really, you didn't let me know that maybe you lost a child, right? Or your wife miscarried, right? Or your mom passed away. Right. Or whatever it may be. Like, I don't know. Right. And so because I don't know that, as a friend, as a leader, as a coworker, I can't help you. And so now you're making the company suffer. And now I'm going to penalize you without having all the information. And so with Peyton, he didn't care about my knee injury. What he was saying was, you told me that you were going to be here. Right. You said that. Where I made a mistake was when I got hurt, to your point, Ty. I didn't stay around the team as much as I probably should have, because they told me I didn't have to be around since I was hurt so much. They was like, hey, man, you're going to be out for 12 weeks. You don't even have to really be around the facility. Come in, rehab, but I could have continued to go to the meetings. I could have continued to be at practice and stand around, even if it was on crutches. But the embarrassment, right, me not being able to do what I wanted to do, me seeing other people in my position start to thrive and to earn that trust with the team, was hard for me at 23 years old. I didn't want to do it. So I'm like, if I just stay away and come back brand new, right, it'll be better for me and my mental health. But really, being away from the team hurt me even more, because I didn't feel like I was a part of it, even though I did come back that season. So I think when you're down and you can't perform, or something's going on where you're not contributing at the level that maybe you could for whatever reason, you can always find other ways to help out the team one way or another, even if it's asking, while I'm away, is there something that I can do to help?
Sure. And I think that's at the same point, this is 42-year-old Tyler that's gone through some of those ups and downs, that is sitting there saying that, one, what you just acknowledged, hey, had you come back in the building, had you been in film work every day, had you been recognizing, contributing, say, hey, I can't be out here running, I can't be out here catching passes, but you know what I can do? I can spend that time watching other film to maybe see things that Anthony's not seeing, to maybe help Marvin, like to just be a contributor. And to say, hey, Peyton, is there something I can do from a scout team or from whatever point of view that is going to help you? I can't come out and run. I can't come out and catch, but I still have what's between my ears that is not challenging. I'm not dealing with concussions, right? I'm not dealing with those factors. And I think it's a great learning lesson, but it's also something that I know many professional athletes and many veterans deal with. And at the same point, I would contend that every person deals with at some point. My skill set, my talent, my ability is in this one way. That's what people value me for. And if that's taken away, now all of a sudden I have an identity crisis. I don't know my purpose. I don't know all of these things. And you essentially had that at 23. albeit not in a capacity to be able to, comprehend that, as you said. And that's part of maturing, right? We all deal with that. I've dealt with that. And I think that is an opportunity as a position that I know you're doing so much in teaching leadership and helping people younger in age learn leadership skills to say, hey, the moment you only see value in a person because of a certain talent or skill that they have today, doesn't mean that person isn't valuable in other ways that they can't even say.
Well said.
But as a leader, a great thing that you can do is say, hey, Roy, I know your knee's busted up right now, but you know what would help me? Is if you came in and you just, tell me things that you're seeing that maybe I'm not seeing. And as a leader, if, Peyton's like, hey, I want to be here. It's like, oh, dude, your knee's busted up. I know you're not going to be able to help. I still need you. You're going to be back this season. We don't know. I need you to stay engaged because I need you to be here, be a part of the team. I know you got other stuff going on. Make sure you take care of that first, right?
Sure.
But I know there's a place for you here.
Yep.
And I think that's our, again, responsibility in society to teach that to people, but also to reach out to people and say, hey, life, isn't what you thought it was going to be. You have tremendous value.
Yes.
This is what I see in you. Man, I'd love if you're able to contribute this.
Yeah. And you're spot on that. So that situation is twofold. You have the leader coming down and saying, hey, we still need you. You still have value, even though you can't do what you need to do or want to do, or based on that circumstance that you're dealing with. On the other end, you have the person that's going through something challenging can say, I may not be able to contribute at the level that I may want to for whatever reason, but I do still have that. I can still add value to the team by doing something in a lesser role. Here's the thing. If I had done that, then there would have been no reason for me to go up to Peyton a second time before the next offseason and say, hey, by the way, this is what I've been doing by myself to help the team. He would have already seen me working by myself, but I would have been with him. I would have been with the team. And so I would have had no reason to have to come up to him and remind him of who I was and what I've been doing, because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to add value and convince him that I'm still here. Like, hey, I know you guys haven't seen me for a little bit, but I'm still here, and here's my proof. Here's my evidence, right? And he's saying, well, that's nice that you're telling me this, but you told me that before. I've seen the same proof and the same evidence, and it didn't help us at all. As a matter of fact, you did the exact same thing. So I think those are the two pieces where if you stick around, now all of a sudden people still, they don't forget about you. And here's the thing. It's a different perspective. To your point, you get a different perspective watching than you do actually doing. A lot of the backup quarterbacks in the NFL, they watch a lot. So when they get inside the games, they're not as flustered or rattled, even though they don't have game reps. They can get in and play because they've seen so much that they can understand it when it's happening.
The quarterbacks that make sure that they study and study at game rep pace, right? The ones that just kind of like, it's my job just to hold a clipboard here, right? I'm just here in case that guy gets hurt. Those are the ones that come in and they're shell shocked, right? And that's essentially what I think you described as, Peyton was calling you out. It's like, dude, you haven't been here. You come in the playoffs. I saw you in the playoffs. You were probably like, all right, I got to try to do too much or, overperform, whatever it may be, as opposed to, hey, just do you, man.
Yep.
Just do you.
Yep.
If you do you, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's key. And you shouldn't have to go remind people of who you are based on what you're saying. At the end of the day,
it comes back to what you said.
Yeah, actions attract trust, right? I don't trust you based on what you're telling me. I trust you based on what you're doing.
Which is what it's telling me is your actions are saying one thing, and then your words are saying something different. And if those two aren't aligned, you're not going to build any trust with anyone. You're not going to have any influence. Your influence is going to be very short-lived if you have any. It's going to be based upon your charisma. It's going to be based upon, your smile. It's going to be based upon how you make people feel in that very instant. But once that goes past, man,
so that's the difference that we talked about in the beginning between polarizing and galvanizing, right?
Yeah.
Your actions will bring people together. Your words will be polarizing, right? But your actions will bring people together.
So I alluded to it a minute ago, and it's really why one I appreciate tremendously about you, your effort, your continued effort into supporting a community that has really probably not gotten a lot of support. And that's in Greater Columbus. A lot of either whether it's at-risk families and youth and adults, and just saying, hey, I want to be a part of the solution. And I recognize that from you. I recognize that when we first met, when we've done things together, that's so much of your heart and your own, past your own life. Tell me, one of the things that I love what you're doing, we've talked about this, is the youth curriculum, the youth leadership programs that you're doing for high school and middle school kids. I love what you're doing. I want you to talk more about that, because I want other leaders that are listening to this to understand the importance of it in our communities and society, and how that's the solution as opposed to maybe something else.
Sure. No, I appreciate the opportunity to share on it. So we developed some leadership curriculum.
So when you say we,
just me and the people that help me on the team,
Okay. The Driven Foundation. Yes, yeah. The Driven Foundation. Through
Driven Foundation. So we developed some leadership curriculum. But to be honest, the curriculum started out it's really, I teach the same thing to adults and executives that I teach to kids. All right. The language changes a little bit, but the principles remain the same. And so I can talk to 50 execs and give them, here's these principles, here's these steps, this is how you can help your team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, exactly what we're doing right now on this podcast. But then also take the same notes and same stuff and present it to a high school kid, or present it to high school students or middle school students. And so they understand the principles because they still remain the same. They're going through the same types of things, just in different ways. And so that's where we make the mistake of thinking that young people don't get it. Like, young people are exposed to more than we have ever. They can do more with their phones, more with their laptops, more on the internet than any adult can that's not in like the tech space. They understand things, they receive things, they digest things. And so it's a problem when professionals and leaders don't make it a priority to take an hour a week out of your 168 hours that you got. Take an hour a week and volunteer in your local community. Go into your kids' schools, go into your community schools. I would like to volunteer an hour of my time once a week to teach leadership from a high level down to 10 or 12 of your students. Is that something that you'd be interested in? And imagine how much we would be able to invade the hearts and minds of young people, to steer them away from the drugs, the alcohol, the thought that they're not valuable and that they can't add value to anything. And so that's where suicidal thoughts come from. And all these things could start to get diffused by having men and women come down and say, hey, I want to offer my expertise to you. One of the reasons why a lot of the kids that we work with in the inner city only have dreams of going to the NBA, NFL, being rappers or whatever it may be, or entertainers, is mostly because that's all they see on television. Right? It's polarizing. It's great to see LeBron James dunk on somebody. It's awesome to see Odell Beckham Jr. catch a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. And that's what I can see on television. But when was the last time I had someone who's a business owner, an entrepreneur, someone who is over 50 employees or over 500 employees come to my school and work with me on a week-to-week basis or every other week basis? There's no way for me to dream because I can't see it. In order to galvanize the group, right, you bring the normal people and you say, hey, man, these are some options for you. But more than just an employment standpoint and what are you going to do for a living, this is how you can be a difference maker inside of your school. This is how you can get a leg up on the competition by learning how to navigate through this decision-making process. And that's what we've been able to implement in multiple middle and high schools around the area. So while I'm working on the professional side with these people that are making tons of money, I can take that information and water it down just a little bit so that these young people can digest it. And those young people will eventually become the leaders that I end up working with when they get a little bit older. Or they might end up teaching me. I don't know. I'll probably end up working for them. But that's something that you want to do, where the leader can raise up other leaders, and then I can then help them raise up more and more leaders.
So how many schools are you working with right now?
Right now, we're in about 15, just in the Columbus area, and it's been awesome. We're growing big time, Last year, we were in about 4 or 5 schools. We're in about 15 now. And I could see that doubling going into next year.
What's been the greatest driver for you?
That's a very, very good question, which is why you have your own podcast. What's the greatest driver?
You've known me long enough to know that I'm not going to just give you softballs, dude.
Right. Like what pushes you? So probably about 2 months ago, Stephen Curry broke the all-time record for three-pointers made in a career.
Yep.
And he did it maybe 6 or 7 seasons faster than Ray Allen, who had the record before him. And they're saying his record can never be broken. It just won't be, and they put all these numbers up, and they're cheering for Stephen Curry, and it was all about Steph. And then I was on Instagram one day, and I saw, I don't remember who posted, one of the sports stations. I don't know if it's Sports Illustrated or Sports Center. But they started laying out the guys that assisted on all his three-pointers. And Draymond Green was number 1 with like 450 assists, giving it up to Stephen Curry. Then Kevin Durant, I think, was second with like 250. Andre Iguodala was third. Klay Thompson was fourth. And it was like 4 or 5 guys that had assisted on, say, 1,500 or whatever it was of his 20-something hundred three-pointers that he had made. And Kevin Durant had tweeted out, send me my Rolex, because Stephen Curry gave Rolexes to all his teammates as soon as he broke that record. And he's like, well, send me mine because I know I helped. But the statistic that stood out the most to me wasn't the number that Stephen Curry had. It was the fact that Draymond Green had been the number 1 on the assist chart. And I started to think from a leadership standpoint what that means. How many people specialize and want to master the art of assisting on someone else's success? Like, I am more than capable enough of shooting a three-pointer. I can make the shot. I can shoot the shot. I am good at the shot. Matter of fact, before I got here, I was the best person on my team, but now I'm on a team with somebody who can shoot better than me. What is it like to be able to say, I'm going to give it to you because you have a better chance of making it than I do? And when you have this massive success, it's going to make all of us better. And so when I'm helping with young people, I'm the guy that's like, hey, I have the ball in my court. I can do whatever I want to, but I want to assist you in becoming great, right? I see something in you that you may not even see in yourself, so I'm going to keep giving it to you until you get the confidence to make this shot, to do what you want to do without my help. Right? Where you want to shoot it. And I want to keep helping you. I want to keep helping you. And every time you see me, you're going to want me to come around because you're like, that guy always wants to help me. He wants to strengthen me. He wants to lead me. He wants to guide me. He wants to assist in what I'm doing. And that characteristic right there is one that's missing for most all leaders. Now, they'll tell you, oh, I want to see you do well. But as soon as you get to a position where you could take their spot, they back off on helping you because they feel threatened. But a real leader never feels threatened by somebody that he's leading. As a matter of fact, I want you to come from my position. If you can do my job better than me, you should have my job, right? And I'm going to help you get there because you're not a threat to me. Because if I add that much value to you, guess what's going to happen? Even if you take my spot, you're not going to want to let me go. Too valuable to you. Too valuable. And so if I'm helping high school people, if I'm helping middle school students, if I'm helping executives, my job is to add value to them because I'm actually more value than they are to their own team if I'm adding value to them and they're taking their team to another level. What does it mean to me if all the students that come through our program end up becoming business owners and entrepreneurs and they're building the world 20 years from now? It's everything. And guess what? They're going to remember who helped. You never forget who helped you, ever. And I don't know when I'm going to need their help. But if I can help them, I know if they can depend on me, I can depend on them later, right? And I'm not doing it for insurance, but it's awesome to be the person that's assisting. It's awesome to be the person that's giving and helping, to distribute the ball to somebody that's better than you, right, or could be better than you, so that they will get the shine, but they're not going to remember where that ball came. They're not going to forget where that ball came from.
A lesson John Wooden taught, right? After you make a shot, look to the guy who passed it to you. He was like, well, what if he's not looking? It's like, oh, he'll be looking. There's something I wrote yesterday, and I think this idea has come from other people that have pressed upon me, but it's something what you just said. Life is not about what you achieve. It is about what you can help others accomplish. That's what you just said. It's what you're about. You know, you mentioned earlier, tattoo on my chest.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't have like the guns that you have to be able to, you know, have all that artwork, and
just go for
I'd have to do a lot more curls. I spend too much time doing legs.
Hey, listen,
I spend too much time doing legs.
If you did, or put it on your leg. If you did it, you'd be polarizing.
I choose to be galvanizing. Come on, galvanize this. Just like a picture of a piece of galvanized pipe, and then that. Well, that's good. Yeah, just a reminder. Dude, I love you. People listening in, you know, say that really touched them, because it touches me. It reminds me of why I'm doing stuff like this. It reminds me of why I'm involved in the organizations that my kids are a part of from a sports point of view. Is doing, you know, this is one thing that I want to say. You've chosen to enter into schools, which I think is exceptional. It's a place that people need to be. But it doesn't mean, like, if someone's listening in, that they have to go find their local school. There's some type of youth organization. You know, I was heavily involved in 4-H growing up. It made a big difference in my life because that's something I was a part of. I didn't play as many sports because it wasn't part of clubs. But yet now I'm a part of my son's soccer club. I try to be involved in my what my daughter and other son are doing in their organizations.
Sure.
And I think what you just told me there is there's plenty of places for adults who have a desire to get better being leaders, which everyone that listens to your content and that's listening to this, I hope is the case. That's why they're here. There's plenty of places to be that example of a growing leader. Of a leader trying to get healthy, because as we talked about earlier, and you talked about your experiences, it was an evolution to where you're at now. And you and I both are going to continue to grow and get better. There's, you know, something we're aspiring to be better. People listening, there's a place for you to get involved. Just go choose to do it. This is what I gather from what you said, and this is what I believe too.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I appreciate the paraphrase. You know, I think people don't realize that you were a kid once, and most people that are horrible leaders and most people that can't, quote unquote, follow leaders, they were the same way in school. They were the exact same way. They're like, adults are nothing but grown up kids. And so if you don't get the information as kids, you're going to turn out to be the same way as an adult. Right. And we forget that if we had acquired the information a little bit sooner, how much better would we have been in high school and middle school and in college, decision making, that sort of thing. And so for us to be at a level right now and to even not think of going and giving back is a problem. That is a deficiency in leaders. Like, I am too busy to go do that. We got other people that go in schools. We got guys like Roy Hall who can go into schools. He has a desire to do that. He has a passion for that. I'm not really passionate about going to a school or going to a youth group or going to an organization and just talking to kids. That's just not what I do. I'm not really, really good with kids. Well, how selfish is that? I'm putting pressure on people. Listen, you're making all that money, driving all them nice cars and doing all these things, and you got an awesome title, but you can't find an hour to go back and help some students who have never been even able to touch someone like you. Like, it's not even about whether you want to do it. It's not even about whether you feel called to do it. It's just a responsibility to do it because you're in a leadership position. And if you can lead young people, let me put you in a room with 50 young people in high school and see if you can command the room. They don't care about your degree. They don't care about how much money you make. They don't care about none of that. How are you going to serve us? Right? I'm sacrificing to come down here. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to give you everything I could possibly give you so that you can make more money than I can. Right? That's what you want to do. I bet you when you go back and you're trying to lead your people in your office, you're going to be like, man, these people are just like the high school kids. Right? Because they didn't get the information. So it's our job to raise up the next generation and stop complaining about what they're not doing, right? I'm done complaining about what kids aren't doing and what these millennials are. I'm done complaining about them. It's our fault for not giving them the information. It's our fault. So I'm about giving information out, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Dude, I love your passion. Man. Love it.
These people get me fired up. I don't even see anybody in front of me, right? There's nobody in front of me. My camera. That's it. But I can see them. I can feel their energy, man. It's trying to come through my home, man. We're going to fight, man.
So the last thing is the last thing as we wrap up, you know, when this podcast airs. It'll be during the month of April, where we're going through as a part of the book club, The Vision Driven Leader by Michael Hyatt. I want to hear Roy's vision. Roy's vision for, you're on a mission, you're driven, you've talked about that. And you talked a little bit earlier about, kids that are leading businesses and growing businesses. What difference that you're doing right now, what difference is that going to make in the community in 3 to 5 years to 7 years to 10 years? What do you see? You're so good at articulating and painting that picture. Sure. I just want you to express it.
There's going to be a moment for all the kids that have come through our program where in the next 3 to 5 years, where they have to make a decision that is going to either save their life or sabotage their life completely. I don't know what that decision is going to be. It may be in a relationship. It may be I'm so stressed about my work and my academics because I got a 4.0, but it's so much pressure that I don't feel like I want to be on this earth anymore. It could be a friend offering some new drug that's out that a cousin took and they have an opportunity to do that. It could be to get behind the wheel of a car at a college party. It could be just a decision to take a job offer after they graduate from college and they have 2 offers on the table and one of them is going to compromise their integrity and the other one is going to pay them less money but will allow them to be able to maintain their morals and values. There's going to be a decision that has to be made and they're going to need to rely on some information that they got from our system. It's going to happen. And it's my job to make sure I equip them for that time and for that moment. Now, it may be more than one decision. It may be multiple decisions, but it's going to be one major one that comes up. Not to retaliate when someone takes something or does something to them. When somebody's on social media and they're having some challenges because they're not getting enough likes and enough comments, or people are in the comments saying some crazy negative things about something that they did or something that they wore, for them not to feel like they don't want to stick around or they want to go retaliate. Like mental health, right? There's going to be a moment where they're going to need the information that we're giving out to them. And wouldn't it be a shame if I had to just decided, because I'm a former NFL player, you know what? I'm done well for myself. I know how to teach leadership. I'm going to just work with these execs and I'm going to just work with these companies and be a consultant and go speak and motivate and put up videos on Instagram. And I'm going to just stay in my lane and do what I do. But you have to go beyond what you just want to do in order to be a complete leader. Where is there a deficiency and how can I go in and help defend against those negative influences and those negative things coming against these kids and coming against people that are eventually going to grow up to lead our country, and to lead a company. And so that's the vision is to fight against the things that I can't see. The vision is to keep sacrificing and producing within children, producing the hearts, producing good hearts. Because I don't know what they're going to face in 5 years. We don't know what we're going to face in 5 years, but I do know that people are quitting at a real high level right now. I'm quitting my job. I don't want to work here anymore. It's too much stress. I don't have to deal with it. I won't. And so you need to build up people that can face those decisions and stay mentally tough and be great leaders in their decisions. Sometimes just being a great leader is making the right decisions, right? So that's the vision. That's the vision, to keep doing what I'm doing. Right? Because my relationships are sound across. I am not just like, I'm not, people will label me, hey, you're a motivational speaker. No, I'm not just a motivational speaker. Forget the motivation. Forget the inspiration. I'm just going to give you truth. I'm going to tell you exactly what's on my heart at the time based on what the problem is. And then that's what we're going to go off of. If you want to call it motivation, you can call it motivation. You want to call it consultant, call it consultant. But what I do know is I can't sleep at night knowing that we got people in our various communities, higher end communities, all the way down to the inner city, people living in poverty, right? They just need support. They just want somebody to come in and show me how to be a good leader. Who's willing to do that? I don't know how to teach. Just go in and be in there. You teach every day, right? And so that's the vision. Just keep building young people. Build people my age. I'm 38. Build people older than me. Just connect and assist. Can I focus on assisting, right? And that's the piece of the puzzle, man. So, that's why, on May 17th, we'll have our Roy Hall Junior Leadership Conference that'll benefit the Driven Foundation. Head coach of the Ohio State University football team, Ryan Day, will be the keynote speaker. And, we're excited about that. And in that room, it's not going to be a lot of kids. Probably none, right? But I bet you those people in that room have kids, and they'll be able to go and contribute to them based on what they learn. Matter of fact, I'll say it at the conference, go share this with your kids, right? Because they're next up from a leadership standpoint.
May 17th in Columbus. Yep.
In Columbus, Ohio. I know your next question. Where can they go find out? Roy Hall Junior Leadership.
Yeah. I mean,
Roy Hall Junior Leadership.
There we go. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. Dude,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your passion, your vision, your heart. It's always something that I appreciate, and I thank you for, really kind of speaking to something from a leadership perspective that every leader needs to take ownership for, that too often we think, hey, let somebody else deal with that. So I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you, brother.
One of the things that when I got done recording this episode, this is a couple days later that I'm doing this segment, but I look back fondly from the time that I got to spend with Roy, and it's just natural and it's easy. Hopefully you sense that in our conversation, but that's what endears me about Roy. Is whether you're in a room with him, whether you're, watching on YouTube, as you possibly hopefully are, to see everything that he's got going on from his persona, but as well just the appreciation for people that love like he does and loves the people that he serves like he does. And the point to that is my sides were pained because of laughing and smiling and just being enjoying of the moment. And it's examples like Roy shared, his experience with Peyton Manning. And let me just give you this. Roy was an exceptional college athlete. He goes into professional football, and yet he had a lot of growing up to do, as he shared. I can echo that because not was I exceptional college athlete, but I had some success in college doing certain things that I did. And I moved into the professional world, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And I probably did similar things like Roy did, and yet I didn't see the ramifications of it till later. And as he shared and he learned it and still is learning, as we're all learning, I think the great opportunity for leaders is to understand we don't have it all figured out. We can't all figure it out. And even as we kind of broke down a little bit, the opportunity at Peyton was, still a young quarterback at that time. And he's such a different leader in today's world. But I think it's not to sit back and be an armchair quarterback. Let me say that again. But it's the opportunity to look back and go through those stories with someone that can help you sharpen and say, you know what? Okay, this is what I've grown. This is what I know. This is how I can get better. It's to me, that's what this community is about. The impact-driven leader community is about being in situations where you're not sitting there with a coach. You're not sitting there with a facilitator guiding you and saying, these are the answers. It's sitting and talking with a friend like I did with Roy. I've looked through a situation and say, man, let's assess that. Let's look at that leadership opportunity and say, how could both people be better? Not to shame Peyton, not at all. That's not it. But I also know this. If my desire is to be a better leader, I need to look at those examples and say, how can I grow from that? What can I do to get better? And that's done in a situation where you're in community and people are bringing up those ideas. That's what we have as part of the Impact Driven Leader Roundtable. And I'm excited to be opening up for another group to join starting in June. I can't wait for that opportunity. There's such a tremendous group right now, and I want to be able to serve more. So if you're interested, make sure you click on the link down below to join the roundtable, to get on that waiting list to join us in June as part of that cohort group. It's going to be limited. It's going to be limited to 8 people or less, probably, like to be 5 to 8 people. And that's what I find is best to get the most out of it. I hope you're one of those 5 to 8 people. And I'd love for you to be able to sit around the table and grow and learn from perspectives. And we read through books together as part of the book club here with the Impact Driven Leader. Because my desire is to help other leaders get healthy too. I'm thankful for relationships with guys like Roy that help me do that. Make me constantly strive to be better so I can serve people in a better way to assist them. And I also hope you have a desire to do that too. And that's why you're listening in. So I thank you for being here. If you've never done it and you're watching on YouTube, great. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. If you're listening, wherever you're listening to podcasts, I'd love for you to subscribe there as well so you get alerted whenever a new episode comes out every Friday. But I'd lastly say this. I'd love for you to give me a rating, a review. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what more you would love to know from a leadership perspective as I'm navigating and trying to learn and master the art of leadership myself. It's never becoming an expert, in my opinion. It's just learning to master the skills. And as you continue to master, there's another level to get better and better. And I hope you're on that journey with me. And I invite you to be a part of the roundtable and join in that journey with me. Thanks for listening in. Until next time, have a good one.